Okay, Trace Perot. It's the yoga of salad. I don't know why I picked that name, but it sounds good. It sounds great. The yoga of salad. Okay. So anyways, you guys ready for this? We're going to make a salad the way a salad should be made. Okay, enough of my shenanigans. I'm going to go down a little bit. I'm going to go over. And I'm going to go down a little more. And what do we got here? I'm going to have to move back. Hope this thing doesn't fall into the sink, which it's almost doing. Okay, so we'll try to get it all in there. Trace Perot here. Did I already say that? All right. So, I'm going to, as I chop these ingredients and combine them into a salad, blah, 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 I'm going to hit on a lot of the concepts behind this particular way of eating. Okay? You know, I may not hit all of the concepts that are available here in this food, but, you know, the thing is that the way I eat is very simple, straightforward, easy as pie, okay? But the concepts behind it are extensive, okay? So I'm giving myself some peel time and some chopping time so I can get into this, right? So this is a tangerine, okay? The reason why I'm eating a tangerine right now, for one thing, they taste damn good. For another thing, I'm about to make a dressing with avocado. I got these avocados. They've been sitting in the refrigerator. They're just this side of becoming rancid, I think. I mean, from the looks of them, well, the inside is definitely still fresh. But I want to get them, I want to use them. I got a couple of backups there just in case. So, let's get the cutting board in here. So, there's a couple of reasons. I was eating a lot of bananas today because today was market day. So I had star apples and bananas and some raisins and some celery and some spinach and some asparagus. And I dished all that at about 2:30. Right now I think it's about 8 o'clock or thereafter, 8 something. So, you know, like I said before, it takes 4 hours for high-density sweet fruit to get out of your system, okay? Bananas, dates, raisins, papayas. I also had some papayas today. Those are high-density sweet fruits, and it takes 4 hours for those to get out of your stomach. And the only thing you want to mix that high-density sweet fruit with is greens, like lettuce, okay, celery, asparagus, blah, blah, blah. Or you can mix high-density sweet fruit with other types of sub-acid fruit like ramutans, okay? But you don't want to mix the high-density sweet fruit with acid fruit, okay? Tangerines, oranges, grapefruit, they're all acid fruit. So I'm well beyond that 4-hour window. It's been actually about 6 hours. So I'm eating this, like I said, because it tastes good. It's very refreshing. It also kind of cleans your palate. Now I could actually put these in the salad if I wanted. And that's the other thing about acid fruit. Acid fruit can be mixed with all these vegetables and fat, okay, and the avocados. You'd never want to do that with sweet fruit like a bananas. You know, you don't want to mix bananas with cabbage or bananas with daikon radish or lime juice or tomatoes. Now these are all the fine point. These are fine points of food combining, and this is for optimal digestion, which is also can be interpreted to be optimal nutrition, or the optimal ability for your body to acquire nutrients from this food, okay? So yeah, it's also about exit time, like I've said before. So anyways, let's look at what else we got. So I'm going to be chomping on these tangerines. What else are we going to do here? Okay, let's make a little salad dressing. Going to take a lime. Going to squeeze this baby into some avocado. And put it in a bowl. First of all, we're going to grab the avocado. So let me slice that out for you. Nice thin slices. So, what do we know about avocado? Avocado is primarily fat, okay? It's plant-based fat, okay? When you have a meal, like a dinner meal, an essentially non-fruit meal, although a lot of these things are actually considered to be fruit, that's when you're going to eat your fat. And these are called overt fats. So these are overtly fat. There are fats in all of these vegetables, right? But they're not overt fats. So if you didn't eat any fat at all, and you just ate vegetables and fruit, you'd still be getting about 7% of your diet in fat. Okay, adding another 10% of your calories with avocado is going to top you out at that 10%. You know, the fat plus the vegetables, fat plus the avocado. You know, the fat in the avocado, the total of those are going to combine to be 10%, which is where I want to go. I don't measure things out anymore. I pretty much know. And if I make a mistake, I feel it the next day, okay? So let's get the lime in there. Lime juice, you know, limes are an acid fruit, so you can mix them with fat. Okay. So there's no problem there. And actually, I've found that oranges taste better with avocado. Okay. But since I don't have any oranges, it's not really orange season, I'm going with the lime juice. And we're going to mash that up. We can find our masher. There's our masher. I don't see it anywhere. Oh, here it is. So we're just going to go ahead and mash this up. Okay. I'm just going to mash that up. And this is our dressing. Very simple, very straightforward. Avocado and lime juice. Okay. So, you know, because I had what I call starchy meals, I think 3 nights in a row up to this point, I'm not really concerned about getting too much fat, okay, because it's a general principle. You know, over the course of the week, you want to keep your fat below 10%. So if you're eating starchy vegetable meals with no fat, no overt fats, then you're ahead of the game, okay? So I don't have to worry too much about the amount of avocado, as long as it's reasonable, okay? So there we go. We got our avocado all mashed up. And then what we're in need of is some lettuce. Yeah, look at that. Okay, we're going to chop this lettuce up and we're going to wring it out. see if I can get some room here. This is romaine lettuce from the market. And we're going to chop that up. We're going to drop it over here in the salad turner. Get rid of all that moisture. Now, the thing about this lettuce, okay, first thing you need to know is one leaf of lettuce has as much protein as a piece of steak. No jive, right? So, you know, that's all part of the protein myth, that steak and animal products have all this protein in them, and they're really mostly fat. And that's the first thing we know about lettuce. Now in tuna, you have to wash every individual leaf of lettuce separately. Okay, and the reason for that is called rat lung worm. Rat lung worm. It's comes from slugs that have ingested the feces of rats, and in the feces of rats are these parasites, and those parasites get into the system of the slug, and the slug crawls across the leafy green vegetables, which they love, and you get the slugs on your salad. So in order to avoid that, and rat lung is nothing to be messed with. It's a very debilitating, horrible disease, basically. Actually, it's a parasitic infection. Parasites go right into your brain. So I'm going to turn the salad here. So you can imagine what having a parasite in your brain is going to do to you. It's not going to be a pretty picture, believe me. Okay, so bring this bowl down. Empty out the water. Now, the other dimensions of lettuce we've already touched on. One is that lettuce is very good with sweet fruit. Okay, it is a leafy green, and leafy greens go great with sweet fruit. Bananas, mamey sapote, durian, all that good stuff. Okay, so here's our lettuce. Now, what I've got here are just a variety of nice vegetables. Greens of green onions, okay, and some red cabbage. It's a cruciferous vegetable. They say, it is said that you should eat cruciferous vegetables of some sort every day of your life. I got some green cabbage coming down the pipe here. And I'm going to chop up some jicama. This is actually daikon radish. So let's get a bead on that. So those are the main thing, the main points about lettuce. Okay? Lettuce is your friend. And I swear to God, when you're eating bananas and you just roll a banana in a leaf of lettuce, it's just out of this world. It's just so delicious. And that's a great way to get variety out of the flavor of banana. Okay? Sometimes I'll just eat a head of lettuce. And since I'm not addicted to all that stuff like vinegar and salt and all the crap they put in salad dressings, just that bare head of lettuce tastes very, very good. Okay, what else do we got here? Okay, we got a little bit of daikon, or jicama. So all this stuff came directly from the islands, okay? So this meal is completely sustainable. The other thing, generally speaking, about this meal is it's about 85% water, okay? This is incredibly hydrating food, right? So I don't know if you've heard the expression about you should eat your water, okay? But that's what this is all about in the general sense, is this is incredibly hydrating food besides having optimal nutrients. And I get as much variation as I can on vegetables and fruits. And the reason for that is every fruit and every vegetable has its special characteristics, right? It's got special amounts of different nutrients. One thing, like a lilikoi, a passion fruit, has 5 times the amount of vitamin C as an orange. So, you know, when it comes to minerals and, when it comes to minerals, vitamins and all that stuff, you want to get as much variety in your diet as possible, because then you're going to hit all these high points, right? You don't need to know what those high points are. In fact, I've tried and I just never can remember them. But each individual vegetable has this wonderful spike in it of a particular, or 2 or 3 particular minerals or vitamins, okay? So if you just get a big variety, you're going to hit all your bases and you're going to get all the nutrients you need, okay? You don't have to get analytical about it. It's very simple. So what else do we got here? Okay, let's go back down to the pit here, the preparation pit. Okay, so now that I've got that set, I'm going to dish the avocado so you can see it. I don't know if you can see that. Dish the avocado and lime juice right on the salad. Okay? And then I'm going to mix it in. So it doesn't take a huge amount of avocado to actually get the entire salad pretty much coated with that flavor, okay? Now what I have found is that on top of that, I want to chop up some avocado. So I'm going to take a slice here. I want to put slices in. And I'm not going to mash these, I'm just going to drop them in, okay? And when you're eating the salad like this, almost every bite will have a little chunk of avocado as well as the avocado dressing, okay? Let's get a little more. See if I can get there's a nice chunk. So, you know, you break it up with your fingers, then you get to lick your fingers, which is marvelous, right? And then you mix that in. Okay, so another general thing about salad is that it is the stock and trade of eating like this. It's the stock and trade of raw food. A salad is the stock and trade of raw food. And the reason I say this is because sometimes I'll go as long as a couple of weeks only eating salad as my main meal at the end of the day. Okay. This week, as we've seen, I've had 3 variations of starchy meals. But ordinarily, I eat salad maybe 4 times a week as my main meal and in the evening, right? And it's totally satisfying. And I only have a couple variations in dressings. I can use mango and tomato and mix those together, mango and orange, mix those together. What I really use a lot is tahini. This is raw tahini. And I mix that with lime juice, and it's absolutely out of this world as a dressing for a salad. So I use this a lot. I couldn't get any this time at the health food store. So I bought sunflower butter, which is just organic sunflower seeds pressed into a paste. And you mix this with lime juice, it's also very good. And we'll do that maybe tomorrow night. So, now I'm going to have a little fun. A little delicious fun. I'm taking this big old mushroom and I'm slicing it up. And I'm going to take the bowl that the avocado was in and I'm going to wipe the mushrooms in the bowl. And this is your hors d'oeuvres, okay? This is my version of hors d'oeuvres. So right before dinner, right before you get the salad, you take this wonderful organic mushroom and you wipe your salad, your dressing bowl, mixing bowl, clean with mushrooms. What can I say about mushrooms? I don't really know. I just know they taste delicious. They're supposed to be good for you. You know, the fungus among us. I couldn't tell you if they're considered to be a vegetable or not. I suppose they are. I've been eating mushrooms for years and years, almost 4 or 5 times a week. And I have never found any negative aspects to mushrooms. So, now we're almost done with this salad here. Get a little bit more light on it. We're going to top it off with some bean sprouts. Oh, and we're going to put some tomatoes. Lovely tomatoes. You slice up some tomatoes. Now this is the only fruit that I don't use my knuckle slicing technique with, because you have to have an extra specially sharp knife to use that technique. Okay? But tomatoes are quick and easy, so you don't really need, you know, something like celery, which is a lot harder to slice, is something you probably definitely want to use that technique. So we're going to sprinkle our tomatoes over here. Right? And we're going to get this last piece of mushroom. And there is our masterpiece salad. Okay? You see that? Now look how big that is. I mean, this thing's huge. This is a regular bowl, okay? This is the kind of salad people serve for like 5, 6 people at a dinner table, right? But this is my main meal, and it's almost entirely water. So the thing about water is, water is transformed by plants into something called H3O, okay? So you take H2O, which is water that falls from the sky, and the plants absorb that, process it, and it becomes H3O. Now, H3O is really the water that your body can use to nourish and hydrate itself. So there is absolutely no point, none whatsoever, in drinking water, unless you're hiking at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and you're borderline dehydrated or about to die from sunstroke. Then you probably want to drink some water. But I'll tell you what, it would take a lot longer for somebody like me to become dehydrated and on the verge of heat stroke in the desert than it would somebody who eats a standard American diet. Because I am so well hydrated, right? And that's because 80, well, if we include bananas, 75 to 95% of everything that I eat is water, okay? But it's not H2O, it's H3O. So I make a definite point to drink a glass of water about every 6 months, just for the hell of it. That's the only water that I drink, okay? And that includes days when I'm working in the hot tropical sun. It's 85 degrees and humid, and I'm sweating, and I'm in the garden, and I don't drink water. If I get if I get hungry, I'll eat another banana, or I'll have an apple, or I'll have some rambutans or a papaya or something like that. But I have no desire to drink water. It's the biggest health myth in the entire world. And I think that's because it's so easy. All you got to do is tell people, well, you got to drink, 10 glasses of water every day, right? So all they do is they go to the store, they buy water, they don't have to prepare it, and they start drinking water all day long, right? And they think they're doing something good for their body. They're not. It's actually damaging for your body. Anyways, one of the other things I like to do is take a cucumber and slice it up and use that if there's anything left in the salad dressing mixing bowl, okay? And I'll use the slices of cucumbers and I'll just swipe those in the bowl and eat them. The thing about cucumbers, they're very high. This is one thing I do remember. They're very high in natural silicon, okay? Now, if you know what silicon is the stuff that makes your nails grow, keeps your hair nice, keeps it growing, okay? Silicon is a wonderful nutrient, and it's very high. Cucumbers are high in silicon. They're so high that if I start a week out with my nails really short, okay, and I don't eat any cucumbers for that week, my nails will be the same length at the end of the week, right? But if I start the week out with my nails really short and I eat cucumbers every day, my nails get really long. It's that quick, okay? My absorption of that silicon is that quick. So that's a fun thing about I like these little fun things about food. So anyways, that just about does it. I can't think of anything else. I do get a bit of a lull, a bit of an energy lull after I eat a big salad like this, but I make a point to really chew well, which helps quite a bit. It also helps to take a walk after you eat this stuff. So I usually don't eat my last meal of the day till later in the evening, right? And the thing about that is that, if you are eating cooked food requires a lot more energy for digestion. So it's recommended that you don't eat after 8 o'clock, and you don't eat cooked food at least, you eat your last cooked food 2 hours before you go to sleep. All right. So that gets into this whole other thing about natural hygiene, which a lot of people don't have a clue about. So let me just explain that, and then I'm going to go eat this salad. So natural hygiene is a concept that was developed back in the 50s, 60s, when the natural health movement basically started. Although there had been a couple of manifestations of the natural health movement way prior to that, specifically in Germany, when all these young teenagers and school-age kids started rebelling, and they got into natural foods and raw foods. Actually, the whole movement had a name, but natural foods kind of came from that. And then the hippies came along, bless their heart. The hippies have given us a lot of stuff, right? I was a kind of a wannabe hippie back in the day. But the hippies came along and they said, well, why are we eating all this food that's full of chemicals, right? all this processed garbage that people are feeding us, the corporate, and there was a big rebellion in the 60s against corporations. So any food that had a corporation associated with it was decried as foul, okay? And out of that was born the natural health movement, right? So there were no health food stores per se before the 1960s. There may be one or two, very rare somewhere in the world, but before the 60s, there were no health food stores, all right? So how did I get into that? I lost my train of thought. So we were talking about natural hygiene. So, okay, so back in the 50s, 60s, it was discovered in this natural health movement. There was something called natural hygiene based on the biorhythms and natural cycles of your digestive system and your absorption system and your elimination system, okay? And what it amounted to was that they discovered that from in 8 hours increments of time through any 24-hour period, starting at 3 a.m. in the morning, you went through cycles, okay? So starting at 3 a.m., it's called your elimination cycle, and this is when you get rid of the excess waste in your system, okay? So from 3 a.m. until noon is when you should be eating fruit, and that's specifically why I eat acid fruit in the morning, because acid fruit induces you to evacuate, okay? So you got this waste sitting in your body. You want to get it out of your body as quickly as possible. So you get up in the morning and you eat acid fruit. If you get up at 4 a.m. or you get up at 10 a.m., you still eat the acid fruit. And you wait a half an hour because acid fruit doesn't mix with high-density sweet fruit. And actually, it's much better not to eat any high-density sweet food until noon, okay? Because at noon is when your feeding cycle starts, okay? So this is when your body naturally wants to get fed. And that's when you want to hit the calories heavy, okay? That's when you want to get those bananas, the 2,500 calories worth of sweet fruit in your system, okay, from noon. All right, well, in my case, it goes up to 2 o'clock, right, because I quit and I need to vacate my stomach of sweet fruit before I have fat, or starchy vegetables, right? So anyways, from noon until 8 p.m. is the feeding cycle. So I do the sweet fruit, do some subacid fruit after 2 p.m., have my salad with all its ingredients, or my fancy, lasagna, raw lasagna, or I have my, hummus, sprouted chickpea hummus, or whatever. I have my dinner, right? Usually before 8 o'clock, but sometimes much later if I'm doing something. So anyways, noon to 8 is your feeding cycle. After 8 p.m., and this is why we got into the discussion, after 8 p.m. is your nutrient absorption cycle. Okay, so there are 3 cycles. That's the third cycle, or the first, however you want to look at it. So if you're eating cooked food, which requires a lot more energy to digest, right, you want to stop that at 8 o'clock, at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And way back when I first started, I was a vegetarian, and I noticed right away that worked. If I ate late, right before I went to bed and got up in the morning, I was groggy as all hell. Okay, but if I cut it off at 8 o'clock and didn't eat any more cooked food after 8 o'clock, I didn't feel that bad in the morning. So those are the 3 cycles: the elimination cycle, the feeding cycle. I don't know what the technical term is for it, and then the absorption cycle. Okay, so I follow this pretty darn closely, right? And I have for the last 35 years. The results are higher energy, quicker elimination time, more efficient elimination, and all the good things that go along with that. So that's something we should hit upon. And another thing I wanted to talk about real quick, I'm sitting here looking at this lovely salad and I want to dive into it, is this idea of longevity. Okay, so this is something that I see kind of neglected in this world of eating ultimate, healthy food, right? So people will go, oh, well, my grandmother lived to be 95 and she smoked every day and she, had a shot of whiskey every other day and she lived right up to be 95 and she was still walking around and blah, 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 right? So everybody's heard that story, right? So my mother indeed lived to be 93 and she never saw the inside of a health food store and she ate meat every day of her life, okay? My father was not too far behind. He lived to be 89, never saw the inside of a health food store, and ate meat every day. They both drank coffee every day, okay? So there are two points I want to make about that. First of all, what state are these people in when they're in their 80s and 90s? Okay, are they surfing? Are they playing tennis? Are they jogging? Right? Are they lifting weights? No, they're not. Although my mother, right up until she was about 85, 87, she walked about 4 miles a day, right? Because she had diabetes, and she got type 2 diabetes when she was in her 50s, and she didn't know about what I know about diabetes, and so she limited her food consumption intake very severely and was very disciplined about it and never had to go on insulin. And that's one of the reasons why she had the energy to walk that much, almost every day. My father, around about the age of 70, 75, developed an artery disease that basically meant he could kick off at any minute. And that ultimately is what made him pass at the age of 89. He died in his sleep. And what was he doing in his 70s and 80s? Well, he was playing golf, which requires basically no energy. I mean, you hit a little white ball and you get in your golf cart and you go to the next hole. I mean, okay. But he did ride his bike occasionally. And that's about it. That's all he did. Okay. So, that's the one aspect of longevity, right? You hear these stories, you got to ask yourself, what were these people really doing? What are the people in the, wherever, the Caucasus Mountains or, one of these blue zone places, sure, they probably got sheeps that they're herding and they're walking up and down the mountain side every day and blah, 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 maybe. Over the age of, 100 years old, they're still going, right? But I don't think they're doing quite the level and intensity of things that raw fooders are doing at that age. Now, that brings up the second point. The second point is there's, I don't know of anybody older than myself who's eating like this other than Dr. Doug Graham, who came up with he sort of synthesized this whole method of eating, right? Dr. Doug Graham, foodandsport.com. The man is a genius, hands down. He's definitely my guru. And he's the only raw foodist. He's the only person in that sphere that you gotta pay attention to. I mean, the man's been there, done that, right? So he's been eating like this for 40 years. It took him 20 years to find out about it. It took me 10 years to find out about it. And I've been eating like this. Well, I started as a vegetarian in 1990. The last time I had a piece of animal flesh was Thanksgiving of 1990, and then I cut it off, and I've never eaten animal products since then, except possibly a tiny bit of honey every now and then. And shortly thereafter, I started eating raw. We don't know how long we're going to live, right? But the fact of the matter is that I have a different paradigm than the paradigm that a standard American, a person eating a standard American diet, with meat and everything else. And even a person who's a vegetarian or a cooked vegan. So their paradigm sort of follows the idea that the average age of death in the United States is 76, I believe, give or take a year. So the average age, people are dead by 76. So I'm 73. I don't think that is going to apply to me. And the fact is that I'm not in that paradigm. My paradigm is more like 140. Okay. So I'm planning on living to be about 140, which science has, I think, touched on this, that it's quite possible to do. And there are people in the world who are living well over 100. I think the oldest person in the world is somewhere a little less than 120. And he's probably drinking wine every night and eating cheese every day or whatever, And I doubt seriously that he's doing any kind of physical exercise. But I may be wrong. So when people bring up this story, I just tell them, okay, there are two different paradigms here. There's the dead at 76 paradigm, which could be dead at 50 or dead at 85 or dead at 93, like my mother, But the average is 76. And then there's this other paradigm. And that's the paradigm that I'm in. So when somebody says, well, I don't need to do that to live a long life, they're talking about dying in their 80s, okay? Which is not, that's not what I subscribe to, right? Now, longevity is a big factor, of course. There's so much psychological BS floating around when you're in your 70s about how you're supposed to slow down and become old and crotchety and all this kind of stuff, that it does play on your mind a little bit, especially when you see that. You see other 70-year-olds running around, and they're not running around, let me put it that way. So it works on your mind a little bit. So I think it does. The older you get, the longevity thing comes into play. If you're 30 years old and you're doing this, you're not worried about longevity. You're primarily worried about energy, well-being, psychological, physical well-being, the ability to perform at your top level, and this sort of thing. That's what I'm concerned with all that stuff, right? But longevity is a little bit more of a factor. Now, there's other aspects of that, and that's what happened before I started eating like this, when I was eating a standard American diet. Now that I know that there are many, many damaging factors that are associated with a standard American diet. Well, I've been doing this for 35 years, so I think I've mitigated probably most of the damage. But I don't know that for sure, because nobody's doing studies on people like us who are eating like this. Doug Graham, he started earlier. So, we're kind of the cutting edge. Now, if you know anybody who's over the age of 73 and is eating like this, please let me know, right? But I'm pretty darn sure that myself and Doug, and I'm not comparing myself to Doug. Doug is the man, no doubt about it. And, but I don't know anybody over this age, that's doing this. So we are at the cutting edge, which is kind of exciting, because we don't know how it's going to turn out. But as far as that goes, I'm planning on 140, So that's about all I have to say. I mean, there are other factors to health other than diet. I mean, Doug's lined out about 15 of them, You got to have good relationships. You got to exercise. You got to breathe good air. You got to keep the stress level down, Most of which I think I'm doing in my life. And I certainly feel incredible at this age. Like, I'm doing stuff that I'm outdoing myself at 20 every day. So those are the points I wanted to make. There are many other concepts and in dealing with this kind of food regime. that we'll touch on as I go along. And but that's about it for tonight. And gosh, oh, here's my glasses. I've been wearing glasses since first grade. When somebody called on me to look at the board and spell chocolate, I already knew how to spell chocolate, but I couldn't see it on the blackboard. And that's when they found out I was nearsighted, horribly nearsighted. Most Tauruses are nearsighted, just like the bull, right? Taurus the bull. So I'm going to look and see who's joining us. We got Elizabeth. Right. And she's asking about questions and she's making comments. Good for you. All right. So I will get to all those questions and comments. And thanks for tuning in. This was a little bit longer than I usually do. But, you know, it's good to know all this stuff if you're serious about an optimal level of health and wellness. So anyways, on a Sunday night, adios from Poolside, Big Island, Hawaii. Trace Perot signing out. Hasta la vista.